Hi everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So today we're going to be using Tombows to make some watercolour bubbles. So if you want to see how I did it, then just keep watching. Okay, so if you saw Wednesday's video, you've already had a little bit of a sneak peek of something that I've made using this technique. So this is a watercolour bubble technique. So the idea today is I'm just going to show you guys how to do it, and then I'll show you the project that I made. But I'm not necessarily going to make anything out of these. But I am going to try something different. So I've been making bubbles out of a pastel rainbow. I want to try one with a rainbow. But we'll start off with the pastels. So I have 6 Tombows here. I have a blue, a green, a yellow, a purple, an orangey kind of yellow, and a pink. So it's 723s, the pink, 991. This is just for anyone playing on at home. 623, 090, 243, and 401. So I just put them in order, sort of so that they're in colour order to me. And we'll start off with one of the biggest bubbles. So what I've done is I've cut these out of watercolour paper using my Cricut. You don't need to cut them out of a watercolour. You do need to cut them out of watercolour paper, but you don't need to cut them out with your Cricut. You can use a die. You can hand cut them. I just cut it out with the Cricut because it was a little bit easier. So, something I've discovered, there are 2 ways to do this. I'm going to show you the way I like, but I will show you the other way as well. So start off with, grab one of the markers, and just on the dry watercolour, don't add any water to this yet, just sort of colour in a slice, and that's all you need to do. It's seriously that simple. Next one, do the same thing, colour in a slice, and it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the messier the better. Doesn't matter if they're not even. You just want to overlap them just a tinsy bit, just so that there's sort of a little bit of coverage between them. And then if you feel like you haven't got enough colour, just go and add a little bit more. Do the yellow. The yellow is a really hard colour. I can never seem to get it right, but it doesn't look right without the yellow. So I kind of keep the yellow in. This is my orangey buttercup yellow kind of colour. I haven't done enough yellow. And then pink. So this is my way of doing it, like I said, but I will show you another way with the pastel kind of way. So, alright, they're all coloured in. Grab yourself a water brush. You don't need to have necessarily a water brush. A paintbrush with water will work fine. I just like using the water brush because it's a little bit easier. And just have a tissue or some paper towel off to the side. So what you want to do is just put a little bit of water in the tip. Start in the middle of your colour and blend up. So the idea here is we're trying to blend between the 2 colours. Now between green and blue is really, really easy. That's not going to be a challenge at all. So I'm just moving the colour around that's already on the page just by watering it down. I don't know if you can quite see that that's working, but it is. So once you've got the green all kind of mushed up, just tidy your brush off just a little bit. You can see some of that colour that's come up. And then go in with the yellow. Now the yellow to green is a little bit harder because the green kind of wants to dominate the yellow. So what I do is I sort of come up the line and then wipe a little bit off and then start more in the yellow. Just running that around. And then moving into the orange. And you kind of want them to bleed between each other just to give you this sort of bubble kind of look. I find circular motions are the easiest way to do this. And just spin it around as you're doing it because it just is a little bit easier on yourself. You can always do a second layer if you don't feel like the colours are enough, but I've actually found this works really nicely. Still coming up. Now the pink and the orange is a particularly hard one. It doesn't like to go, but you can make it. There we go. And then just pulling that up from the bottom because I left that a bit squiggly at the top. There we go. Alright. So we'll come over to the purple. If your brush gets a bit dry, just add a little bit more water. Coming up. This is a particularly harsh line, so I'll try and blur it a little bit. One more time, and we'll come up for the blue. This one's particularly easy. I like the blue to purple. I still want to finish off that green to blue because although we've done it the other, as in coming from this way around, you want to make sure it still looks like a full circle. So make sure you blend it again, just to make sure you get rid of all those harsh lines along the way. Now, like I said, the only colour to me that ever feels washed out is the yellow. Now this is still a little bit damp. I'm going to add a little bit more colour just to the yellow, just to intensify it a little bit. Whoops, don't do that. That'll be fine because it'll blend into the green. There we go. That does always mean there's a little bit of pilling, but it's not too bad. Alright. I always just put a tissue on there just for a second just to pull up any excess water that's there. And then I'll put that off to the side to dry. It's a little bit hard to get off the mat. Put that off to the side to dry. So that's the first way to do it, and that's the way I find gets me the nicest colour. The other way you can do this is just putting it around the outside, in a bit of a, I don't know what you kind of call it. You kind of push the colour outwards and inwards, which gives you a much more watered down effect. Kind of makes it look a little bit less like a rainbow, but same sort of effect. So I'm just going to do the same thing again, just laying that colour in. And we do the exact same thing, but this time instead of just bringing it up and blending them together, or instead of blending them together, we're actually bringing the colour the whole way up and down into the middle of the bubble. So this one's a little bit more work. It takes more time to do because you're painting more of it, and you do get a very, very washed look as opposed to a very vibrant look. But it is the same technique, just done a slightly different way. So I'm just going to go ahead and watercolor these out. Let me know if you guys like the talky ones when I just keep talking or when I actually sort of stop and concentrate. You have to let me know, leave it down below. There we go. See, I don't like that anywhere near as much. I find the other one much more fun, much more vibrant and much more kind of bubble-like, but either or, whichever one you prefer. So while those two are drying off, we're going to try this with the really bright colours. So I'm going to do a slightly smaller bubble with this one. But I've got 7 colours this time, not 6. So I've got 452, 703, 665, 195, 055, 856 and 946. So I'm just going to do the really fun kind of vibrant one. Red. I don't know how many times I do the Roy G bib in my head, but I always change it. It's Roy G B VIC because I get rid of the indigo and put in the purple instead, the pink instead. Whoa, that's green. This is going to be one bright bubble. May have not quite evened these out enough, so I might need to put a little bit more red on there. I have left the centre a little bit clean just to see what we get when we bring all these really bright colours in. The really cool thing too about using this on a glass mat is that it doesn't matter if I make a mess because it all cleans off. You definitely need a tissue for this one. Okay, we'll start off with the red. This is what I meant with my favourites, that I've been pulling my Tombows out so much more often. I feel like I never really worked out how to use them, and I've now got to a point where I get it. I get how they work, I get how the water works with the Tombows, and I'm starting to be able to make things that I definitely couldn't make before. So I'm just being careful with that yellow again. I'm going from the yellow into the orange as opposed to the orange into the yellow, just to try and keep that colour as preserved as we can. And I'm going to do the same thing with the green. I'm going to start in the yellow and push into the green as opposed to the other way around. And try, once I've gone into the green, to stay in the green, then clean the brush off and come back into the yellow. So you are going to have to make a couple of passes to get that right, but it will work. get there. The worst thing is because I've left the space in the middle, it's going to end up being brown. Whenever you mix colours together, you always end up with brown. So you just want to make sure that you get a nice gradient effect the whole way through, and that all the colours, there's no harshness between any of the colours. And if that means you've got to go back around a couple of times, that's okay. Yeah, I kind of lost the orange in there, but anyway. I don't like that as much. I feel like that's not quite as bubbly as the others. But I'm going to try one more. I want to try doing like a primary colours kind of one. So I'm going to do yellow in the middle, or yellow on one side. Blue over here. And then red, and actually try and make those middle colours myself instead of putting the marker down. I'm just interested to see if it works or if you get an effect, or just in general. So I'm going to pull the blue out. So you're pulling the blue into the middle and then stopping, and then pulling the yellow out and then stopping, and then bringing them together. We're going to get a shade of green. It's going to be a very, very light shade of green. We are going to get it. And if you need to pull more blue or more yellow, you can do that. Forgot how much fun it was playing with colours. Oh no! You got to be really careful with the red. The red is a dangerous, dangerous colour and can take everything over. So we'll do the same thing here with the blue. And different shades of marker, because obviously I'm using the blues and stuff that I'm using. A darker blue will give you a different kind of purple here, so it's actually not giving me a very good purple at all, because the blue, oh, it's not too bad. The blue is definitely not enough. Then we'll do the same thing here with the yellow. Before we go anywhere near that, I'm just tired of really cleaning that up. I'll bring the yellow in. There's our 4 bubbles that we've made using 4 slightly different colour combinations. Now the first 2, yeah, none of them are really dry. So I'm just going to grab my heat tool out really quickly, just give them a blast so we can finish the bubbles off, and I'll be right back. Just while I was sitting here, I was just sort of thinking about mixing colours and things I could do that I didn't really think of. So I'm just because I can, grass mat and all. I just want to see if I could get a purple. And if it was just maybe because that red was the wrong kind of red. And I think maybe the blue's not enough. Anyway, sorry. I was just experimenting while I was, or thinking about experimenting. Okay, so to put, clean up my mess first. So to put the bubble marks, to try and make this look like a bubble, 2 choices. First one's your gel pen, second one is a chalk marker. Now I have this chalk marker because my other ones, my favourite Kassa ones, are actually living out on my door at the moment because we've started making ourselves little notes to try and sort of keep our spirits up at the moment. So that's living out there. So this is my spare chalk marker. So there's 2 ways to do this. The chalk marker gives you a darker result but not necessarily a precise result. The pen gives you a more precise, more bubble looking thing, but not as consistent, if that makes sense. So I'll start off with this one here because it sort of gives you the idea, and if I mess it up it's okay. So you sort of want to come around and make that shine mark like a bubble has. It's that simple. Now if you need to make that a little bit more by adding a little bit more to this, you can do that. Then I like to add a couple of other kind of shine marks. So I add little diamonds, and this is where this marker is not so great, but where if you grab in the actual jelly roll, now I'm really bad at drawing diamonds, I should have made that clear. You can actually give it a little bit more. You can do more than 1, 2, you can do 2, it gives a different kind of effect. So we'll show you again here on this one. So we'll show you just with the pastel, doesn't ever show up as much because obviously it's a slightly different colour. If you can put your shine marks where the brightest bit is, you'll see them easier. But just just little marks just to make it look round is what you're aiming for. So I like the combination of the two. I like to put the chalk marker for the shine mark, and then I like to go in with my gel pen and add the diamonds. And I always do more than one. Well, not always, but most of the time. I like how bright those colours are. None of this needs to be perfect. I think that's the most fun part about this. It's watching the colours kind of go together and seeing if they look okay, or if they look silly, or they end up giving you a nice bubble. But I think the pastel bubble looks nicer, but I do really like that one. So what I did with my bubbles was I used them for one of my Memory Decks challenges. This one was it was called Rainbow Connection, and I'd already done something rainbow, so I wanted to do something very, very different, which is where the bubbles came into it. It's basically just a bubble card, there's nothing more to it than that. But I really enjoyed sort of just playing around with it and seeing what I could get, and they're all slightly different. Some of them are the round one, so where I sort of have them in the middle and push them out. Some of them are the whole diagonal ones. Obviously this one was just an experiment for you guys, but could use them to make little, not sundials, but if you put them on vellum, did the same sort of technique with the water, you're going to make it a little bit more see-through the vellum. You could hang it up and it could be like a light diffuser coming through your window. Could stick them, do different shapes. You could do hearts or something like that and hang them from a coat hanger and have them as a bit of a desk ornament or an ornament in your bedroom. Lots of things you could do with them, but I would love to see you guys come up with something other than Memory Decks. Have fun with the Memory Decks though, because that's fun too. But I'd love to see what you guys can create with this sort of idea. You don't have to do bubbles, you can do any kind of shape you like. But I just thought the bubbles was the cute thing, and that was what I saw on Instagram, so I thought I'd try and recreate it for you. So that is it for my little watercolour bubble tutorial. You don't have to use Tombows either. If you have watercolour paints and you want to use those, you can use them as well. The idea is the same, it's just pushing those colours together and kind of making it look as round as you can using those white gel pen techniques. Would love to see what you create. Please tag me in anything you do, just hashtag Plum Mashable, I'll find you. Or you can obviously share them with me directly on any of my social medias. I'd so love to see them. Thank you guys so much for watching this one. I hope you found it lots of fun, and I'll see you again in my next video. Sending lots of huggles. Bye!